What happens when two of the most respected figures in entertainment and sports sit down for what should be a routine morning interview, and it turns into one of the most uncomfortable moments in live television history? The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife, and what started as friendly banter quickly spiraled into something nobody saw coming. Before we get into this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me whose side you're on in this whole situation, because trust me, you're going to have an opinion by the end of this. The Good Morning America studio was buzzing with its usual energy. Dwayne Johnson, known to millions as The Rock, was scheduled for a segment promoting his latest film project. Michael Strahan, the former NFL star turned beloved morning show host, was set to conduct the interview. These two had crossed paths before at various industry events, always cordial, always professional. But something about this particular morning felt different from the moment Dwayne walked onto that set. Michael opened with his signature warm smile, greeting Dwayne as he took his seat. "Welcome back, man. Always great to have you here," Michael said, extending his hand. Dwayne shook it, but there was a noticeable stiffness in his demeanor. His jaw was set, his eyes focused. Michael, being the professional he is, pushed forward. "So, let's talk about this new project. You've got a lot riding on this one. Biggest budget you've ever worked with, right?" Dwayne nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's a massive undertaking. 3 years of my life went into this." His voice was measured, controlled. Michael leaned back in his chair, sensing something was off, but continuing with his prepared questions. 3 years? That's incredible. Now, I've got to ask, and I know people are curious about this. There's been some talk about creative differences during production. Can you shed some light on that? The question hung in the air for a moment. Dwayne's expression shifted, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Creative differences," he repeated, his tone flat. "That's one way to put it, Michael." Michael's smile faltered just a bit. He glanced down at his notes, then back up. "Well, it's Hollywood. These things happen on big productions. But the final product is what matters, right?" Dwayne leaned forward, his massive frame suddenly seeming even more imposing. "Is that what you think this is about? The final product?" Michael's professional veneer was starting to crack. "I'm just saying, audiences don't usually care about what happens behind the scenes. They care about what they see on screen." "Right," Dwayne said, his voice taking on an edge. "And that's the problem with this whole industry, isn't it? Nobody wants to talk about what actually happens. Everybody just wants the polished version, the highlight reel." Michael shifted in his seat, clearly not expecting this turn. "I'm not sure I follow you, man. We're here to talk about your movie." Dwayne let out a short, humorless laugh. "Are we? Because it seems like you've got an agenda here, Michael. That question about creative differences, that wasn't just casual curiosity. You know exactly what you're asking about." The studio had gone quiet. Producers behind the cameras were exchanging worried glances. Michael tried to regain control of the conversation. "Look, I'm just doing my job. People are interested in these stories. It's not personal." "Not personal," Dwayne echoed, his voice rising slightly. "You know what's not personal? Having someone sit across from you and pretend they're your friend while they're actually trying to get you to slip up on national television. That's not personal. That's just business, right?" Michael's face hardened. "Hold on now. I've never pretended anything with you. Every time you've been on this show, I've treated you with nothing but respect." Dwayne sat back, crossing his arms. "Respect? That's an interesting word coming from you right now." The tension was palpable. Michael's co-hosts, who had been sitting nearby, seemed frozen, unsure whether to intervene. "What's that supposed to mean?" Michael asked, his voice low. Dwayne stared at him for a long moment before responding. "It means that respect isn't just about being polite when someone's sitting in front of you. It's about how you handle information, how you use your platform." Michael's jaw clenched. "I have always been fair in how I've covered stories. Always." Dwayne shook his head slowly. "Fair? You want to talk about fair? Let me ask you something, Michael. When you were playing football, when you were in that locker room, how would you have felt if someone took private conversations, private struggles, and turned them into entertainment for millions of people? The question hit hard. Michael's eyes flashed with something. Anger, maybe. Or recognition. That's different, and you know it. Dwayne leaned forward again. Is it? Is it really? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly the same. You've got a platform, you've got reach, and instead of using it to actually have real conversations, you're out here fishing for drama. I'm fishing for drama? Michael's voice rose. You're the one who came in here with an attitude. I asked you one question. One about something that's already been reported everywhere, and you're acting like I attacked you personally. Dwayne's expression didn't change. You asked the question because you wanted the reaction. You wanted the soundbite. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending this was some innocent inquiry. The producers were now actively signaling for a commercial break, but Michael waved them off. You know what? You're right. I did want to hear what you had to say about it. That's my job. But I didn't come at you sideways. I asked it straight. Dwayne nodded slowly. You asked it straight. Okay, let me answer it straight then. The creative differences you're talking about? They happened because people wanted me to compromise on things that mattered. They wanted me to take the easy route, the safe route, and I refused. Michael absorbed this, his expression softening slightly. That's fair. But you have to understand, when you're that protective, when you won't give any details, it makes people more curious. It feeds speculation. Dwayne's voice was firm. Let them speculate. I'd rather people speculate than have them know every single detail of what went down. Some things deserve to stay between the people who were there. Even when it affects how people perceive the project? Michael countered. Even when rumors start flying that might not be true? Dwayne's eyes locked onto Michael's. Especially then, because the truth is more complicated than a 3-minute segment on a morning show can capture. The truth requires context, requires understanding, and frankly, it requires trust. And I don't trust that this conversation was ever about understanding. Michael sat back, processing this. So what are you saying? You don't trust me? Dwayne's response was measured but cutting. I'm saying I don't trust the format. I don't trust that anything I say here won't be chopped up, taken out of context, and used to create a narrative that has nothing to do with what I actually meant. Michael's frustration was evident now. That's not fair. I've never done that to you. Haven't you? Dwayne challenged. Think back to the last time I was here. Remember what we talked about? Remember what made it to air versus what got cut? Michael paused, clearly trying to recall. I don't control the editing. Dwayne nodded. Exactly. You don't control the editing. So how can you sit there and promise me that this conversation, right now, is going to be presented fairly? The question lingered in the air, unanswerable. Michael looked directly into the camera, then back at Dwayne. You're right, Michael said finally, his voice quieter now, but no less intense. I can't promise you that, but what I can promise is that I'm sitting here trying to have a real conversation with you, not trying to trap you or make you look bad. Dwayne studied him for a moment, as if weighing the sincerity of those words. Then let's have a real conversation. Let's talk about why you even wanted to bring up the creative differences in the first place. What were you hoping to get out of that? Michael took a breath, seeming to consider his words carefully. Honestly, I thought it would be interesting to hear your perspective. There's been a lot of chatter in the industry about how difficult productions can be at this budget level, about the pressures that come with it. I thought you might want to set the record straight. Dwayne's expression remained skeptical. Set the record straight by confirming there were problems? By giving you details you could then dissect for the rest of the segment? Come on, Michael. You're smarter than that. Maybe I am, Michael shot back, his frustration building again. But you're also smart enough to know that being this defensive makes it look worse. If there's nothing to hide, why are you so worried about talking about it? Dwayne's voice rose. Because It's not about having something to hide. It's about having boundaries. It's about recognizing that not everything needs to be public consumption. Why is that so hard for people to understand? Michael leaned forward, matching Dwayne's energy. Because you're a public figure. Because you've built your entire brand on being transparent, on being the people's champion, on connecting with your audience. You can't have it both ways. You can't be Mr. Accessible when it suits you, and then shut down when questions get uncomfortable. The words landed hard. Dwayne's jaw tightened, and for a moment, it looked like he might stand up and walk off the set. You think I'm shutting down because the question makes me uncomfortable? Dwayne's voice was low, dangerous. I'm shutting down because the question is designed to create drama, not understanding. There's a difference between being transparent and being exploited. Michael didn't back down. Nobody's exploiting you. You came on this show voluntarily. You knew what this was. You've done dozens of these interviews. Why is this one different? Dwayne paused, and something shifted in his expression. You want to know why this one is different? Because I'm tired, Michael. I'm tired of playing the game. I'm tired of sitting in these chairs and pretending that everything is fine, that every project is amazing, that there are never any real struggles. I'm tired of the performance. The honesty in his voice was stark, unexpected. Michael seemed momentarily thrown by the raw admission. Then don't perform, Michael said, his tone softer now. Just talk to me. Really talk to me. Dwayne laughed, but there was no humor in it. You say that like it's simple, like I can just drop the guard and everything will be fine. But that's not how this works. The moment I open up, the moment I show any vulnerability, it becomes a headline. It becomes a story. And then I'm not a person anymore. I'm content. Michael absorbed this, his expression thoughtful. Is that really how you see this? All of this? He gestured around the studio. As just content creation? Dwayne nodded slowly. That's exactly what it is, and I'm not naive about it. I participate in it. I'm part of the machine. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. And it doesn't mean I'm going to make it easy when someone tries to extract something from me that I'm not willing to give. Extract, Michael repeated, and there was an edge to his voice now. That's an interesting choice of words. Like I'm some kind of vulture picking at you. Dwayne met his eyes directly. Aren't you? Isn't that what this industry does? We pick at each other. We feed off each other's struggles. We turn pain into entertainment. And we all pretend it's normal. Michael sat back, clearly affected by the accusation. That's not fair. I've been on the other side of this. I know what it's like to have your life dissected. I know what it's like to have people make assumptions about you based on incomplete information. I would never intentionally do that to someone else. Dwayne's expression softened slightly, but his guard remained up. Maybe not intentionally, but it happens anyway, doesn't it? The machine doesn't care about intentions. So what do you want from me? Michael asked, spreading his hands. You want me to apologize for asking questions? You want me to just sit here and let you promote your movie without any real conversation? What's the point of you even being here if we can't talk about anything substantive? Dwayne considered this. Substantive? You think asking about behind-the-scenes drama is substantive? Michael's patience was wearing thin. I think it's part of the story. I think how a film gets made matters, especially when it's a film of this scale. I think audiences are smart enough to care about more than just what's on screen. Dwayne shook his head. Audiences care about what they're told to care about. And shows like this decide what that is. So yeah, when you ask about creative differences, you're deciding that's what matters. You're framing the narrative. Then reframe it, Michael challenged. You're sitting right here. You have the platform right now. Tell people what you want them to know. Dwayne stared at him for a long moment. What I want them to know is that making something meaningful requires sacrifice. It requires standing up for what you believe in, even when it would be easier to compromise. It requires having difficult conversations and making difficult choices. That's what the creative differences were about. Not ego, not drama, but trying to protect something that mattered. Michael nodded slowly. Okay, that's good. That's real. Why couldn't you just say that from the beginning? Dwayne's response was sharp. Because I shouldn't have to defend my boundaries to you or anyone else. The fact that you think I owe you that explanation is part of the problem. The tension spiked again. Michael's expression hardened. I don't think you owe me anything. But you came on this show. You sat in that chair. And yeah, part of the deal is that I'm going to ask questions. If you don't like the format, don't come. Maybe I won't, Dwayne said quietly, and the threat hung in the air. Maybe none of us should. Maybe we should stop feeding into this whole system where our value is determined by how willing we are to expose ourselves for ratings. Michael's eyes flashed. That's easy for you to say. You're at the top. You can afford to take that stance. But there are a lot of people who need these platforms, who need this exposure. Not everyone has the luxury of your position. Dwayne leaned back, a bitter smile on his face. You think I don't know that? You think I haven't thought about that? That's exactly why I'm so protective. Because I remember what it was like when I needed these platforms, when I would have done anything for this kind of visibility, and I remember how it felt to be used, to be packaged and sold. I don't want that for anyone else, but I especially don't want to participate in perpetuating it. Michael was quiet for a moment, processing. So, what are you saying? That I'm using people? That this show is exploitative? Dwayne's voice was measured. I'm saying that the line between giving someone a platform and exploiting their story is thinner than we like to admit. And I'm saying that we all have a responsibility to think about which side of that line we're on. Michael nodded slowly. And for the first time, there seemed to be a moment of genuine understanding between them. I hear you, Michael said. I do, but you have to understand my perspective too. I'm trying to do good work here. I'm trying to have meaningful conversations. And when someone comes in as guarded as you did today, it makes that impossible. Dwayne's expression shifted, something like regret flickering across his features. You're right. I came in hot. I came in with my walls up. Maybe that wasn't fair to you. The admission seemed to surprise Michael. So what happened? What changed between the last time you were here and now? Dwayne took a breath, seeming to wrestle with how much to reveal. A lot has happened. A lot of things that made me question how I engage with media, how I present myself, what I'm willing to sacrifice for success. And I realized that I've been sacrificing too much. I've been giving too much of myself away. Michael's voice was gentler now. That's understandable, but you know what? You can set boundaries without coming in hostile. You can protect yourself without assuming everyone's out to get you. Dwayne met his eyes. Can I? Because from where I'm sitting, the moment you show any hesitation, any reluctance to play along, you become difficult. You become the problem. And I'm tired of being made to feel like protecting my peace makes me the bad guy. Then reframe it, Michael challenged. You're sitting right here. You have the platform right now. Tell people what you want them to know. Dwayne stared at him for a long moment. What I want them to know is that making something meaningful requires sacrifice. It requires standing up for what you believe in, even when it would be easier to compromise. It requires having difficult conversations and making difficult choices. That's what the creative differences were about. Not ego, not drama, but trying to protect something that mattered. Michael nodded slowly. Okay, that's good. That's real. Why couldn't you just say that from the beginning? Dwayne's response was sharp. Because I shouldn't have to defend my boundaries to you or anyone else. The fact that you think I owe you that explanation is part of the problem. The tension spiked again. Michael's expression hardened. I don't think you owe me anything, but you came on this show. You sat in that chair. And yeah, part of the deal is that I'm going to ask questions. If you don't like the format, don't come. Maybe I won't, Dwayne said quietly, and the threat hung in the air. Maybe none of us should. Maybe we should stop feeding into this whole system where our value is determined by how willing we are to expose ourselves for ratings. Michael's eyes flashed. That's easy for you to say. You're at the top. You can afford to take that stance. But there are a lot of people who need these platforms, who need this exposure. Not everyone has the luxury of your position. Dwayne leaned back, a bitter smile on his face. You think I don't know that? That's exactly why I'm so protective. Because I remember what it was like when I needed these platforms, when I would have done anything for this kind of visibility, and I remember how it felt to be used, to be packaged and sold. I don't want to participate in perpetuating that. Michael was quiet for a moment, processing. So, what are you saying? That I'm using people? That this show is exploitative? Dwayne's voice was measured. I'm saying that the line between giving someone a platform and exploiting their story is thinner than we like to admit. And I'm saying that we all have a responsibility to think about which side of that line we're on. Michael nodded slowly. I hear you. I do. But you have to understand my perspective too. I'm trying to do good work here. I'm trying to have meaningful conversations. And when someone comes in as guarded as you did today, it makes that impossible. Dwayne's expression shifted, something like regret flickering across his features. You're right. I came in hot. I came in with my walls up. Maybe that wasn't fair to you. The admission seemed to surprise Michael. So what happened? What changed? Dwayne took a breath. A lot has happened. Things that made me question how I engage with media, how I present myself, what I'm willing to sacrifice for success. And I realized that I've been sacrificing too much. I've been giving too much of myself away. Michael's voice was gentler now. That's understandable, but you can set boundaries without coming in hostile. You can protect yourself without assuming everyone's out to get you. Dwayne met his eyes. Can I? Because the moment you show any hesitation, any reluctance to play along, you become difficult. You become the problem. And I'm tired of being made to feel like protecting my peace makes me the bad guy. Nobody's calling you the bad guy, Michael said, his voice firm but not unkind. But you have to meet people halfway. Otherwise, what are we even doing here? Dwayne sat forward. That's the question, isn't it? Are we having a conversation, or are we performing a conversation? Are we connecting, or are we just checking boxes for content? Michael looked at him, really looked at him. You're asking the right questions. Where's the line between authentic connection and performance? I don't have the answer. I wish I did. Dwayne's shoulders dropped slightly, some of the tension leaving his body. At least you're honest about that. That's more than most people would admit. Michael leaned forward. Look, I get it. This whole industry can feel like it's designed to strip away everything real. But that doesn't mean we can't try to do better. That doesn't mean every interview has to be adversarial. Dwayne considered this. You're right. And maybe I made it adversarial by coming in expecting the worst. Michael's expression softened. That's big of you to say. And I want you to know that your instincts aren't wrong. This industry does chew people up. You're not crazy for being protective. Dwayne looked at him with something like gratitude. Thank you for saying that. Michael smiled. So, can we start over? Can we talk about your film without all the baggage? Dwayne nodded. We can, and I'll try to meet you halfway. Michael extended his hand. Deal. And I'll try to be more mindful about the questions I ask and why I'm asking them. They shook hands, and this time it felt genuine. All right then, Michael said, settling back with a more relaxed posture. Tell me about this film. Not the drama, not the struggles, just what you created. What are you proud of? Dwayne's entire demeanor changed. His eyes lit up. Man, I'm proud of so much. We pushed boundaries with this one. We told a story that I don't think has been told in quite this way before. Michael leaned in, genuinely interested now. What kind of story are we talking about? Dwayne spoke with passion. It's about redemption, about second chances, about what it means to rebuild yourself when everything falls apart. It's personal in a lot of ways, Even though it's wrapped in this big action spectacle, there's real heart in it. Michael nodded appreciatively. That sounds powerful. And I think people are ready for that kind of story right now. I hope so, Dwayne said, because we poured everything into it. Every person on that set gave their all. And yeah, there were challenges, but ultimately, I think we created something special. Michael smiled. That's what I wanted to hear. That's the story that matters. Not the conflict, but the creation. Dwayne looked at him with newfound respect. You know, Michael, when you're not trying to get the soundbite, when you're just present and listening, you're really good at this. Michael laughed. Thanks, man. And you're pretty good at this too, when you're not treating me like the enemy. They both smiled, and there was a warmth between them now. I'm sorry, Dwayne said, his voice sincere, for coming in the way I did, for making assumptions. Michael waved it off. Don't worry about it. We got to something real. That's what matters. And honestly, this conversation might be more valuable than a traditional promotional interview would have been. Dwayne stood up, and this time when he extended his hand to Michael, it was with genuine warmth. Thank you for hearing me, for really hearing me. They shook hands, and as Dwayne walked off the set, there was a sense that something had shifted, not just between these two men, but in the broader conversation about how we engage with each other, how we balance authenticity with performance, and how we protect our humanity in an industry that often seems designed to strip it away. If you made it this far, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we're always breaking down the moments that matter in entertainment. And drop a comment below. I want to know, do you think Dwayne was right to come in defensive, or should he have given Michael more benefit of the doubt from the start? Let me know what you think.